if we can change our perspective, how we think, it just changes about everything in our life. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. And we're going to talk about perspective. We're going to talk about perspective about possessions today, which is a tremendous principle also that I'm going to share. But outside of sharing my faith, which I try to do every day and just love to do, outside of sharing my faith, if you and I sat down around the table, just the two of us, one-on-one, okay? Just a one-on-one conversation. And you would look at me and say, John, what is the thing that you would say to me that would best improve my life? I would talk to you about how you think, how I think, our perspective. In fact, I put in our lesson today some perspective principles that I just think are huge. And let me just give them to you real quick, okay? You ready? Let's go. First of all, how we view things determines how we do things. That's just an incredible principle. Now, each one of these I could preach 30 minutes on, but they won't let me do that. But how I view things determines exactly. So if I view things in a perspective of wanting to serve with excellence, guess what I'll do? I'll serve with excellence. If I view things in a very kind of a average way, then I'll put average into that endeavor. So how I view things is how I do things. Let me give you another perspective principle that's just huge too, and that is what you see is who you will be. And we see things not as they are, we see things as we are. That's why two people can be in the same situation, same experience, same place, and see things completely different than anyone else. So what is before you isn't what you see, who you are is what you see. This third one is just amazing. Whenever I do conferences on how to create positive change in organizations or in people's lives, this is kind of a cornerstone of that thinking. And so let me give that to you. And that is that when we change the way we look at things, the things that we look at change. I mean, I'm always interested in people who say, you know what, gosh, John, I just want to change my spouse. Good luck. My name is John, I'm your friend. Let me tell you a better way to get on with that, and that is change the way that you see your spouse. Then all of a sudden, everything begins to turn. These perspective principles I'm giving you, they'll just change your life. And I know that as I'm getting ready to teach on possessions, I know that you don't need it because you already have an awesome perspective. But aren't you glad I'm teaching this lesson for the person on your left today? Huh? Aren't you glad? Between you and me, I know that's why you brought them here today. So just look at them and say, this is good for you. Go ahead and tell them that. This is good for you. Some of you are enjoying that way too much. I mean, some of you are saying, oh, this is my chance. I've been waiting for this for a long time. Let me tell you all about this. Okay. Let me give you one more perspective, just principle that's just huge, and that is what I believe about life determines how I perceive life, which determines what I receive from life. Powerful. And the reason that I'm giving you these perspective principles is because I do a lot of reflection. And this week being Thanksgiving, I spent some time in reflecting, and reflecting is good for all of us. Reflection turns experience into insight. And so what happens is that whatever we're experiencing, we need to, Coke says you have to have that pause that refreshes. I would encourage you to have the pause that refreshes you mentally, emotionally, spiritually, when you look at an experience and say, okay, what did I learn from that? And as I was reflecting on Thanksgiving this week, I came up with an observation about myself, and it was just simple, that when I lack gratitude, it's because I focus too much on myself. That almost every time that I find that I'm not grateful as I could be, it's always because I'm thinking too much about John Maxwell. And what does that mean to me? And where am I? And what am I having? And what have I gotten? And this whole the moment that my perspective goes inward, is the moment that I began to lose that joy and that gratitude. And in fact, okay, I didn't even do this yesterday, okay? So you're getting something they didn't. This is so good. I went home last night. This is a perspective teaching, okay? And it's laminated, okay? Whenever I laminate it, it's good, okay? It's all laminated. It's not just paper, it's laminated. If I'd have been Moses going up on Mount Sinai, I'd have laminated those 10 commandments. Yeah, I would. I sure wouldn't have put them on rock. Those babies break. I'd have been taking those laminated, then I'd be sticking them in every Jewish pocket I could, I'll tell you right now. Okay, here we go. So this is a great one on perspective. This is fun. So I say that because I want to talk about just for a moment dogs and cats. Okay, so just kind of have a little bit of humor and don't take it serious if you are a cat lover. Excerpts from a dog's diary. This is all about perspective, folks. 8 a.m., dog food, my favorite thing. 9:30, a car ride, my favorite thing. 9:40, a walk in the park, my favorite thing. 10:30, got rubbed and petted, oh, my favorite thing. Noon, lunch, my favorite thing. 1 p.m., played in the yard, my favorite thing. 3 p.m., wag my tail, my favorite thing. 5 p.m., milk bones, my favorite thing. 7 p.m., got to play ball, my favorite thing. 8 p.m., wow, watch TV with the people, my favorite thing. 11 p.m., sleeping in bed, oh, my favorite thing. Excerpts from a cat's diary. Day 983 of my captivity. My captors continue to taunt me with bizarre little dangling objects. The only thing that keeps me going is my dream of escape. There you are. Perspective is everything, huh? Isn't that fun? Okay, here we go. So the scripture setting is simple. Some of the religious legalists came to Jesus and they were trying to corner him, to be honest with you, and they asked him the question, who is my neighbor? And Jesus gave him the story of the Good Samaritan, which is all about perspectives that I want to teach today. So let's get to the screen and let's go to the scripture. In reply, Jesus said a man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho when he was attacked by robbers. They stripped him of his clothes, beat him, and went away, leaving him half dead. A priest happened to be going down the same road, and when he saw the man, he passed by on the other side. So too, a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan, as he traveled, came where the man was, and when he saw him, he took pity on him. He went to him and bandaged his wounds, pouring on oil and wine. Then he put the man on his own donkey, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. The next day he took 2 denarii and gave them to the innkeeper. Look after him, he said, and when I return, I will reimburse you for any extra expenses that you may have. Which of these 3 do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of robbers? The expert in law replied, the one who had mercy on him, and Jesus told him, go and do likewise. In this story, there are 3 different perspectives about possessions, and I want to give them to you now. First of all is the perspective from the robber's standpoint, because a man was robbed in the story. And the perspective concerning possessions for people that are robbers is that what is yours is mine, and I'm going to take it. That's exactly what they did. They saw the man, they saw he had possessions, what's yours is mine, hit him, knocked him around, took his possession, what's yours is mine, I'm going to take it. Now, I'm not going to spend much time on that because there's a high, well, the odds are quite high that there are very few real robbers here today. So you're probably feeling really good about this perspective because most of us really don't think what's yours is mine and I'm going to take it. But I will say this, we're all born kind of like robbers because there's a very similar thought perspective from toddlers' perspective. Little toddlers, their perspective of possessions is something like this. If I like it, it's mine. If I can take it away from you, it's mine. If I had it a while ago, it's mine. If I say it's mine, it's mine. If it looks like mine, it's mine. If you're having fun with it, it's mine. If I lay down your toy, it's mine. If it's broken, it's yours. Huh? Toddlers and robbers, pretty close, huh? And you know why that is? It's because we're all born into sin. We're all born with a great amount of selfishness within us. And so there's a lot of people that just basically, they never really go stick somebody up in that whole process, but really basically they're looking around and they're basically saying, well, truthfully, my perspective about possession is what's yours is mine and I'm going to take it. Okay, we're going to leave that one. Let's get to more where we live, okay? That first one wasn't for you, it was for that person on your left, okay? The second perspective about possession is what is mine, and I'm going to keep it. Now, this is very relevant and sometimes to almost every person in this room. Because every one of us have that sense that the possessions that we have are really ours. And so what is mine, and I'm going to keep it. And that perspective is birthed out of two things. It's birthed out of selfishness, and it's birthed out of a lack of awareness about really how possessions work. I had a friend, this is good. I had a friend who was talking to me recently, and he took his son to McDonald's, and his son loves McDonald's fries, so they went up, and so Dad got his son a big pack of good McDonald's fries, and we all know how good those are. So they sat down, and his boys across the table from me got the big pack of fries, and got the ketchup, and taking the fries, and dipping them, boy, just enjoying his. And Dad's looking over, and Dad says, oh, those things look really good. I think I'll have one. And so he reached over to get one of the fries, and when he got right to where the fry was, his son grabbed his hand, and he pushed it away. He said, no, Dad, you can't have those. Those are my fries. And so the dad said, I looked at my son and I thought three things. Number one is he doesn't understand where those fries come from. He doesn't understand I'm the source of those fries. I'm the one that went up and ordered the fries. I'm the one that reached in and I paid for it. He doesn't understand where those fries come from. He said, the second thing I thought, and I could tell as he was telling me this story, his anger was rising. He said, the second thing I thought was, he doesn't understand. I can take those fries from him. I can look at him and say, if that's going to be your attitude about fries, here, I want to take those fries. Or he doesn't understand. If I wanted to, I could bury him in fries. It's not just thought about going, give me 100 fries. Just, bring the wheel. Just bury it. I can bury him in fries. I can take his fries from him. He said the third thing he doesn't understand is I don't need his fries. I can get my own fries. I'm the source of the fries. I don't need his fries. He said, what bothered me as a father was this. I didn't need his fries. I could go get my own, but I wanted to share them with my son. It was the attitude of selfishness and a lack of awareness. And he's telling me this story as a father, and man, I'm writing it down. I'm saying, this will go in a book. This will go in a sermon. Who else can take a French fry story and make it out of a sermon like I can? Huh? Here we go. But I thought to myself, that it's so true that sometimes we look at our possessions and we honestly think that they're ours, and because they're ours, I'm going to keep it. And there are two just what I call incompatible words in the English language. One is selfishness, which we are all rooted in. All of us, I am, you are. Hello. Every once in a while I run into somebody and they say, well, I'm not selfish. And I say, what other thing are you unaware of in life? What is there another piece of counseling we could deal with you on the same time? Of course we're all selfish. It's our nature. It's who we naturally are. What's mine is mine, and I'm going and keep it. If you don't think you're selfish, just let me ask a question. The next time you're in a group picture, when you see that picture, who is the first person? Who's the first person you look for? Come on now. You look at yourself. You know how you judge a group picture? How good you look. There's nothing group about it. There's nothing, you look at it, if you look good, you say, great picture. You send it to me. And if you don't look good, okay, do it again. Come on. One more time. You judge, everything is judged around you. You know, with one trifling exception, the world is composed of others. That was a good thought. You just have to think about it for a while. Write it down, and 2 days from now, it'll dawn on you. You see, selfishness and significance. Selfishness is what I've done for myself. Significance is what I do for others. They're just incompatible. And let me just say this because it's so true. Selfish people cheat themselves. The very thing that they're trying not to do, and that is to keep everything for themselves, is what they don't understand, is they cheat themselves. Proverbs 11:24, it's on your screen. A generous person will prosper. Whoever refreshes others will be refreshed. So if I ask all of you, how many of you just like to be refreshed? Well, every hand goes up. Well, how do you do that? Well, be generous to others. You see, it's amazing that every day we wake up and most people, they think, what am I going to reap today? What am I going to receive today? What's in it for me? What am I going to get today? Everybody, they just kind of, okay, I hope something happens good at work today. My gosh. And it's all about what am I going to reap? What am I going to receive today? And there's a whole law of nature that we're missing, and the law of nature is, I don't want to be overcomplicated here. You got to sow something to reap something. I mean, if a farmer didn't sow any seed in the spring and went out in the fall and says, man, I'm hoping to reap a harvest, you'd say, you're about the dumbest farmer I know. What a dumb farmer. You got to sow something. Isn't it amazing? We're all committed to what am I going to get? What am I going to keep? What's going to be mine? And we're not committed to the, you see, the problem in this world is not the haves and have-nots. Even though there's a culture that would like to kind of make that the issue, it's not the haves and have-nots, folks. It's the give-nots. It's the give-nots that's the problem. No matter how much or how little you have, has nothing to do with having a generous spirit about possession. So, the first attitude, what's yours is mine, I'm going to take it. Well, come on, that's terrible. We know better than that. But this second one now, this can creep into our life. What's mine is mine, and I'm going to keep it. So let's go to the third attitude, and that is what's mine is yours, and I'm going to give it. And that's the picture of the Good Samaritan that Jesus gives for us in this story. He basically says the Good Samaritan saw the robber, saw his pathetic condition, had pity on him, went over, basically said, what's mine is yours, and I'm going to give it, and I'm going to take time, I'm going to give you my time, I'm going to give you my effort, I'm going to give you my energy. And it is interesting, the priest, the Levite, and the Good Samaritan in this story, they had many similarities in the story. They all saw the problem. Isn't it interesting? Jesus wanted to make sure that every one of us knew they saw the robber. It wasn't like they missed him. They were walking by and looking over to the left when he was over. No. He said they all saw the man. He wants to make sure that everybody understands they all saw the robber, so they all saw the problem, and they all had an opportunity to help. They all could have done what the Good Samaritan did. I mean, he was right there. They could have reached over. They could have helped him. And they all had a reason not to help. And see, the reason not to help, the reason not to give, the reason not to serve, that's what gets us if we have a kind of a selfish mindset. You see, the worst excuse is a good excuse. The bad excuses don't mess us up much. But man, when it's the good excuses, We buy into that. So we have a tendency just to, and by the way, the priest and the Levite, I'm sure they had good excuses. Here's the difference. The priest and the Levite, they had an inside perspective. It was all about them. It was all about, what is this going to do to me? This is huge. This is huge. The Good Samaritan, he had an outside perspective. He not only saw the robber, but he saw the potential of helping somebody. And when you have an inside perspective like the priest and the Levite, in other words, it's all about you, there's a reason they didn't stop. And I'm going to tell you why they didn't stop. It's very simple. They looked at the robber, they saw he was in bad condition, and they selfishly said, if I stop, it will inconvenience me. Oh my gosh. This is going to be a real inconvenience if I stop. I had an appointment. I'm going to miss the appointment. And besides, he's a mess. Look, he's bloody and there's nothing convenient about stopping and helping the guy that's robbed. And so the questions that the priest Levi had, that inside selfishness, well, this will inconvenience me. But the Samaritan, when he looked at him, I believe that I went through a process, and I believe that he basically said three things to himself. First of all, I think he said to himself, if I don't stop, what will happen to him? Well, I'll tell you what will happen to him. He's already half dead. He'll die. And I just want to say to you, without being overly dramatic, if you don't have a generous heart towards people and giving and serving and loving and living, if you have a tendency to be tight and close, let me just say something to you. There's a whole bunch of people that you could help that you don't help, and because of that, they're not going to get the help that they need. That's just a fact. So if I don't stop, what's going to happen to him? But let me just say something else. He asked another question, and another question, I love this question. He said, if I don't stop, now listen to this, this is huge. What will happen to me? In other words, what happens if I ignore this person? What happens if I pass by like the other two on the other side and just keep on going? Because you see, the Good Samaritan realized that what would happen to him is that he would begin to have an indifferent heart. That he'd have an indifferent heart towards people. That his soul would begin to slowly be calloused. And there would be a day that he wouldn't care. And there would be a day that he wouldn't share. And there would be a day that those things wouldn't in any way affect him in any kind of an emotional way. And then he's asking, but if I do stop, and I love this, if I do stop, what will happen to me? And what will happen to me is that I will make a difference. You see, let me just say this. You gotta stop and meet the need to make a difference. And the question is very simple. Do you want to make a difference in the lives of people? If you want to make a difference in the lives of people, you begin to understand that what is mine is yours, and I'm going to give it. Albert Einstein said it so well. It's an incredible quote. He said, a person who starts to live when he can live outside. A person first starts to live when he can live outside of himself. In other words, until I live outside of myself, I don't really live. What I would talk to you about is I would talk to you about perspective. Because your perspective right now concerning God, your family, your work, where you live, the perspective that you have right now is your world. Your perspective is your world. You see, how we view things is how we do things. And that's why it's possible for two people to live in the same world and have two totally different viewpoints of that world. You see, we don't see what is before us. We see what our perspective is. So you run into somebody that has an abundance mindset, they see opportunity. You see somebody that has a scarcity mindset, they see closed doors. Now, it's the same world. The world is the same, but our perspective is not the same. Most of my life, 80% of my time, I really deal in the business community, and I deal with people that by and large don't know God. And so when I would become friends with them and speak to their companies, et cetera, and I would have conversations with them, People that don't know God, I would ask them, I say, well, what is your picture of God? I mean, when you think of God, what do you see? And almost immediately I began to understand that, and this was an incredible breakthrough for me for a moment, that people who don't know God are not anti-God, they just have a wrong picture of him. And in fact, one of the joys of my life for several years now is to help people have a correct picture of God, because the moment that their perspective of God changes, their relationship changes. And that's true in everything in your life. That perspective is just huge. If I can change in how I see things, everything around me begins to change. I'm one of my least favorite places to go is the dentist. I see I have friends here, don't I? Huh? I mean, okay. I mean, it's not like, wow, I get to see the dentist today. You know? And, I don't need to tell you everything. It's not really, the question is, will dentists go to heaven? That's the question. I suppose they will, but there won't be dentists there. They won't be dentists there, that's for sure. But they're always, you get your teeth cleaned, and you get to go do that, you do all that stuff, okay? Well, sometimes I wish I could help a person. I wish our heads had a zipper, and you could unzip it. You could take the mind out and spray the sucker off. You know what I mean? And kind of get all the cobwebs out and get all the dust off and get all that stuff off, because it's when I go to the dentist, I get dental floss. Well, I would like to help people with mental floss. I would just like to walk into their life and say, look, my name is John and I'm your friend. And I want to give you a perspective that's going to be an asset in your life and not a liability. So the story we're going to look at today is the story of the Good Samaritan. We know the story well. Jesus tells it to an attorney who comes to him one day, and basically he asks the question, who is my neighbor? And so Jesus tells him this story. So we're going to pick it up. It's on the screen. You can follow along and reply to the question. Jesus said a man was going from Jerusalem down to Jericho when he was attacked by robbers. They stripped him of his clothes, beat him, and went away, leaving him half dead. A priest happened to be going down the same road, and when he saw the man, he passed by on the other side. And so too a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan, as he traveled, came where the man was, and when he saw him, he took pity on him. And he went to him and he bandaged his wounds, pouring on oil and wine. And then he put the man on his own donkey, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. And the next day, he took out 2 denarii and gave them to the innkeeper. Look after him, he said, and when I return, I will reimburse you for any extra expense that you may have. And then Jesus asked the lawyer, which of these 3 do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of the robbers? And the expert in law replied, the one who had mercy on him. And Jesus told him, go and do likewise. In this story are 3 different perspectives. And I want us to look at them just briefly. It's very simple, because their perspectives determined their behavior. So let's look at the robbers first. And basically, the robber's perspective was this: what is yours is mine, and I'm going to take it. So they see this guy coming down the road. They said, hey, we're going to rob him. That's a robber's perspective. What's yours is mine, and I'm going to take it. Now, honestly, I don't have to spend too much time on this perspective, because I think most of you are saying, well, thank God, I'm not that. I wouldn't be so quick. You got some robber in you. Yeah, you do. I'm not picking on you. I got robber in me too.
Let me explain it this way. We were born robber. We're born in sin. And if you don't think you have some robber in you, think of the behavior of a toddler. In fact, let me give you property law from a toddler's perspective. If I like it, it's mine. If I can take it away from you, it's mine. If I had it a while ago, it's mine. If I say it's mine, it's mine. If it looks like mine, it's mine. If you're having fun with it, it's mine. If you lay it down, it's mine. If it's broken, it's yours. We all got a little robber in us. Every one of us were born in sin. And to be honest with you, there are times when I look at those and say, wow, what's yours is mine. And I'm going to take it. But let's go to perspective number 2, because we've matured beyond that, hopefully. So somebody the other day told me, they said, well, they're immature, but they're going to get older. And I said, well, maturity doesn't always accompany age. Sometimes age comes alone. Perspective number 2. This is the perspective of the priest and the Levite. Remember, they saw the man, crossed on the other side, kept going. Their perspective is, what is mine, and I'm going to keep it. So when they saw this man in terrible trouble, they basically said, well, I feel bad for him, but that's his problem. I mean, what's mine is mine, and I'm going to keep it. I have a wonderful friend who told me about taking his son to McDonald's. His 10-year-old son loved McDonald's French fries. And I mean, think about it. Who doesn't love McDonald's French fries? So his son wanted to go one Saturday morning, and so Dad gets him in the car, takes him to McDonald's, goes up, gets a pack of fries, sits down at the table with him, and they're starting to talk. And you know that, I mean, if you're near McDonald's fries, it's only a matter of time. You look at them and you smell them, and he did what we would all do. Soon he's reaching over into that pack to get some of the fries, and his son grabs his hand and pushes it back. He said, no, Dad, you can't have these fries. These fries are mine. And he said, I pulled my hand back, and then as a father, I immediately thought 3 things. Number 1, he doesn't understand where these fries came from. I'm the one that drove him to McDonald's. I'm the one that went to the counter. I'm the one that paid for them. The only reason he has fries is because of me. He doesn't understand that I'm the source of his fries. He said, the second thought that came to my mind was, he doesn't understand that I can take them away from him. With that kind of attitude, I can say, if that's the way you're going to be about, you don't want to share fries, I'm going to take those fries. I mean, I'm the father. I can take the fries from him. He said, in fact, I not only could take the fries from him, if I wanted to, I could go back up to the counter and order 20 packs of fries and go over there and dump them on him and bury him in McDonald's French fries. As soon as he said that, I thought, wouldn't that be wonderful? How did you die? Was it manna from heaven? It was McDonald's fries from heaven. I smothered. In fact, 2 people tried to rescue me, and I smacked them off. He doesn't. I'm the source. He doesn't understand. I gave him to him. He doesn't understand. I can take it away. I can bury him. And he said the third thing is he doesn't understand. And this was huge. He doesn't understand. I don't need his fries. I can go back up to the counter and I can get my own pack. And I can sit at the table and I can have mine and he has his and I eat my fries and he said, what he doesn't understand is as a father, I don't need his fries, but I would sure love for him to share them with me. Of course you would. A father-son moment. What I've discovered is that selfishness and significance are two incompatible words. Let me explain. Selfishness is all about me. It's all about my stuff. Significance is all about others. Now, I know a lot of very successful people that their perspective is what's mine is mine. I know a lot of them. I know a lot of wealthy, successful people, and I know a lot of them that are very unhappy, a lot of unhappy, successful people, because what's mine is mine. But when you go to significance, when we begin to see others, I've never met an unhappy person that spent his or her life living in significance. I never have. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, well, I'm not selfish. You didn't think you were a robber either. You're 0 for 2. I had a lady really one time come to me and she said, well, I just want you to know I'm not a selfish person. And I smiled and I thought to myself, no, I don't. I think you think that. You're a delusional person. And wait, no, wait. If you don't, hold on. My name's Sean. I'm your friend. If you don't think you're selfish, and somebody takes a picture of you and your group, when you see the picture, let me ask you a question. You know where I'm going with this, don't you? How many are guilty? The first person you look for is yourself. And you're not selfish. You look at yourself. And if it's a good picture, you say, oh my gosh, great picture. Send that to me. Oh my gosh. Oh, super picture. Wonderful, wonderful. Oh, that's such a great picture. And hey, and if you don't look good, you say, oh my gosh, take another one, take another one, take another one. Come on, let's go. Get the whole group around. You judge the whole picture by how you looked. There were 15 of you in the picture. And you're not selfish. So the robber says, what's yours is mine, I'm going to take it. And the priest and Levi, their perspective is what's mine is mine, and I'm going to keep it. Let's go to perspective number 3. This is the perspective of the Samaritan. And they call him good for a reason. It was his perspective. He had a good perspective, so he was a good Samaritan. His perspective is, what is mine is yours, and I'm going to give it. Now, this is beautiful. In fact, in our life, we basically say this would be the top tier. It's really not, but this would be the top tier of perspective on possessions. I'm going to give you a higher one in a moment, but this is a very good perspective. He was a good Samaritan. What is mine is yours, and I'm going to give it. Now, let's make sure that we have the similarities of the 3 people. The robbers, priest and Levite, good Samaritan. They all experienced the same thing. The priest and the Levite, they saw the man. Jesus is very clear. They saw the man, walked on the other side. The good Samaritan saw the man. It's the same road, it's the same time, it's the same place. But the perspective is entirely different. That's why your perspective is so essential to the success of your life. It's not what happens to me, it's what happens in me that truly matters. Wow. I've spent this week, I had some fun. I was in Nashville, and we've decided to take some of my books and put them to music. We're writing songs right now, and it was so much fun because I was with the top 5 songwriters in Nashville. They have like 100 #1 hits between them with all of them. And I was in the studio. Of course, I'm not a songwriter. I'm a writer of books. But they were taking my books, and I was explaining what the books all were about. And we were writing songs, and they let me in, and we had so much fun. And we wrote 4 songs. We wrote 4 songs, and we're going to do 4 more. We're going to have an album. We're going to release it. It's going to be and different artists are going to sing it. And it was just a blast. I mean, now I'm the least of the least. They're the songwriters. I just write books, and so I'm learning, and I'm asking questions, and I'm having fun, and it was just and one of the songs that we wrote is going to be called "Get Over Yourself." I just love it. Because I tell people all the time, I say, oh my gosh, get over yourself. In fact, I tell people, you ought to laugh at yourself more. Everyone else is. Get over yourself. And so the chorus, which is just so much fun, I can't sing it to you, but the chorus, it goes like this. You got to find yourself, to know yourself. You got to know yourself, to be yourself. You got to be yourself, to improve yourself. You got to prove yourself, to get over yourself so you can give yourself. You can't give yourself until you get over yourself. Thank you. Thank you. Does that mean you'll buy the album when it comes out? Of course, of course. I just wish I could tell you all the wonderful experiences. Now, here's the point. The Good Samaritan said, no, what is mine is yours. And I'm going to give it. There's one more perspective that's higher than those 3. This is kind of unusual because we would say, wow, that's huge. But there's a perspective higher than that. Let me give it to you. This is a biblical perspective. I'm going to teach it now for the next few minutes. It's even higher than the first 3. And here it is. What is mine is not mine. And I'm going to manage it. In other words, the highest perspective is to know that your stuff is not your stuff. It isn't. It's God's. It's all God's. Psalm 24:1, the earth is the Lord and everything in it. The world and all who live in it, it's all his. James 1:17, every good and every perfect gift, where is it? It's from above and comes down from the Father of lights. In other words, everything that you've got, it's not yours. Everything I have, it's not mine. It's not my stuff. It's his. It's his. Thank you. Thank you. I saw you clap, First Lady. It was so wonderful. Thank you. The rest of them had no clue. And you just led the way, and then they, a few of them followed, kind of begrudgingly, because, we kind of like to think it's our stuff. We really do. And God loves a cheerful giver. By the way, I was talking to the family in the green room, and we're going to go lunch afterwards. I told them I would buy, and then I looked in my wallet, and gosh, I don't have enough money. And I just thought, well, man, where could I get money? Well, would anybody want to, bring me $100 and I could help with the deal? So, oh my gosh. Wait. Hi, my name's John.
I'm Jahira.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I need friends like you. This is so, thank you for the $100. Man, wow. I'll buy. Okay, where was I? Maybe I should ask again. Now, let me just stop here because I know you're thinking, what just happened? He's doing this teaching, and all of a sudden, he wants $100 and she steps out and gives him $100. What happened? Why did she do that? Why did she do that like immediately? And then you're probably asking yourself, why didn't I do it? I'm asking that question myself. No, let me explain to you something about the $100. When I asked somebody to bring me $100, the reason she stepped out so quickly and brought it to me, it's not her $100. Before the service, I gave it to her. I said, this is my money. And during the sermon, if you don't mind, if I ask for it, would you just bring it back to me? And she said, of course. Why did she do it so quickly? She did it so quickly. Why did she do it so readily? She did it so readily because it wasn't her money. And when you have a hard time giving and being generous with God, you got a problem. You got a perspective problem. You think it's your money. Oh, it's not yours. It's all his. If you took a package down to get it delivered, to FedEx or whatever, and you gave it to the person, and so you called the friend you were sending it to the next day, and she said, well, no, I didn't get the box. You'd look at it and say, what, you didn't get the box? What happened? And so you go down to the delivery guy and you say, do you remember me? Oh, yeah, you brought in a box yesterday. Yes, I did. And then he looks at you and says, I want to thank you for that box. My gosh, you're very generous. Generous. It wasn't for you. You're just the delivery boy. Listen to me, son. I'm just God's delivery boy. God gives me blessings, and God only gives to me what he knows will flow through me. It's not mine. It's his. And the moment that we understand that we continually just give it and pass it on. You see, I've got a shovel and God's got a shovel. And God shovels blessings on me, and I take my shovel and I pass them on to you. And I can't keep up with his blessings because his shovel is bigger than mine. But it's not my stuff. If you think it's your stuff, when you die, tell me how much you get to take with you. You and I are stewards and managers for a very short time of our possessions. And the moment that we have this perspective, all of a sudden we begin to have joy in giving. We begin to be our brother's keeper. All of a sudden, everything changes. Now, what made the change? It was our perspective. All of a sudden, we realize what's mine isn't mine. I'm just a steward of it. I'm just a manager of it. You're beautiful people. It's a simple message. And you got it. I can tell you got it. So let's pray. Father, what beautiful people these are. They have learned that there are 4 perspectives about possessions, and help us to get to level 4. Help us to understand that it's all yours. It's not ours. What's mine isn't mine. I just manage it. I just steward it. Help all of us to be your delivery girl, your delivery boy. Help us all to understand that you entrust to us what is yours, to steward it and manage it well. And may we do it well. In your name I pray. Everybody said, God bless you very much. Thank you.
And I will talk to you about Change Your World, the book that just came out. But understand, I'm an author, but I'm also a leader. And so I'm going to give you an example of that. When I write books, of course, people pick up and they read my books. But I write books from a leadership perspective, and I'm going to show you exactly what I mean here. So we're going to go two tracks for the next 35, 40 minutes. We're going to go on a book track of I'll share with you kind of what Change Your World is all about. But we're also going to go on a leaders track. And I'm going to talk to you about how when you write or when you speak, you always connect from a leadership perspective. And let me give you an example of that, okay? Change Your World. The title is very empowering. Oh my gosh, I get to change my world. So when I write the book as a leader, I ask myself, okay, how do I equip people and how do I empower people? And I came to the conclusion that there are 9 things that have to happen to equip and empower people in your business, okay? This works for you wherever you are, whatever you're doing. If you're equipping and empowering people, the 9 things I'm going to share with you will help you equip and empower you. Now, because I'm a leader, when I write this book, I'm an author leader or a leader author. My 9 chapters are the 9 things that you need to equip people. So what I almost always have is a leadership story inside of my book. And in fact, I'm trying to think, Sarah, I was with a small group of major leaders recently, and I sat down with them and I shared a little bit of what I'm going to share, not as extensive as I'm going to share with you now. I've never shared this, so this isn't like a sugar stick, but I'm going to give you an overview of the book. It'll be a little choppy because I'm just wanting to get like highlights. But what I want you to catch is the fact that the 9 chapters of the book are the 9 things you need to do to equip and empower people. So let's get going. The best way I would, if I was taking notes where you, I would kind of start this off. To change our world, we must have ... Okay? That's kind of like the heading. To change our world, we must ... have. Okay, what do you have to have? Number 1, to change your world, to change my world, we have to have a passion that stirs us. And I begin with passion because passion is the great motivator. When people are passionate about something, you don't need to motivate. Let's put it this way. You never have to motivate a passionate person. If somebody's passionate about the business, you don't have to wake them up and say, could you get out of bed and kind of, do your thing now. Passion energizes people. So in equipping and empowering, if we're going to change our world, we really have to have a passion that stirs us. So my first chapter is entitled, We Can't Wait for Change. Now, you see, that's a passion phrase. We can't wait for change. In chapter 1, I quote Augustine of Hippo, and I use this quote because it's so powerful. Hope has 2 beautiful daughters. Their names are anger and courage. Anger at the way things are, courage to see that they do not remain as they are. And what I'm doing in this first chapter is I'm making sure that the reader has a passion and energy for what I'm about to share. In fact, I'm really upfront here, and I say, Change Your World was written for you if you want to change your world. And if you want to have your own life changed, and I really talk about the fact that this is going to be this is for a certain kind of person. This is not for the person who says, I want you to motivate me to change my world. This is for the person who says, I'm already motivated. I just need somebody to give me direction. And so chapter 1 is all about how do I have hope? How do I have hope for myself? How do I have hope for others? Because again, when you have hope, there's a passion that you have. I've never known anybody that had hope that lacked energy and passion. They go together. Just like a loss of hope has the opposite negative effect. So I talk in chapter 1 about the difference between optimism and hope. And I think this is huge because I think, again, in your business, there's an awful lot of optimism and there's not near as much hope. For example, optimism is kind of like a belief that things can be done, that things can be accomplished. A belief that, things can get better. I can reach my dream. It's a belief. But hope is a faith. And belief says things can get better, where faith says I can make things better. There is an action that faith requires that belief doesn't require. Let me put it this way. Optimism is a passive virtue and hope is an active virtue. Optimism really takes no courage, takes no commitment. Hope takes a lot of courage and it takes a lot of commitment. And so chapter 1, I really kind of, what I try to do in chapter 1? I try to separate the players from the pretenders. And I do that often. In fact, maybe this is a little leadership teaching point just for a moment, Sarah. When I cast vision, I hear all the time people say, well, vision unites people. And I want to say to them that that's not necessarily true. Vision also separates people. And I don't cast vision to unite people. I honestly cast vision to separate them. I've got to figure out who the players are from the pretenders. And here's why. If I'm going to lead people, I got to lead people that want to be led and that want to go. And nothing is more tiring and time consuming than trying to lead people who don't really want to go. And so the quickest thing I can do as a leader is to separate the players from the pretenders and say, okay, I'm going to work with the players. And that's why, as you know, Sarah, I teach all the time that I unconditionally love all of you as my team, but you have to earn my time. And you will not earn my time by being on my team. Just because you're on my team doesn't mean you earn my time. You have to be on my team, but you have to earn my time through production. And I've got to see you want it worse than I want it. You got to bet on yourself before I bet on you. When people says, well, I need a sponsor, or, you don't need a sponsor. Sponsor yourself. Why should I give you my time or my money or whatever if you haven't proven that you're deserving of it? So chapter 1 is to empower people. You really got to make sure that they really want to be empowered, that they want to be passionate. So that's chapter 1. Okay. Go to chapter 2. To change our world, we must have, secondly, a transformation that changes us. In other words, chapter 2 is entitled, Become a Catalyst for Change. And how do I become a catalyst for change? I become a catalyst for change by the fact that I have been changed. Don't miss this. You cannot give what you do not have. And there's nothing worse than people trying to sell things that hasn't changed their life. In fact, I was just speaking Friday in Orlando to, we have 7 companies, okay, in the John Maxwell enterprise. And so I was talking to the salespeople of all of our companies. And I shared with them that I've never sold anything in my life. I don't do sales. I have just all my life added value to people. So I never come into your life saying, I want to sell you something. I really come into your life and say, I would like to add value to you. Now, let me explain something to you. You can't add value to others if it hasn't added value to you. And so there are a lot of people that are vision casters, but they're not vision carriers. And you've got to live this to have the authenticity to sell it. I want to talk about changing your world, but I want to talk about it from a family perspective. Again, so many times I think that we become overwhelmed by the bigness of the world, and we miss our first priority, and that is our home, our family. And how are we preparing ourselves, and how are we equipping ourselves, educating ourselves to really to do what we need to do and to be who we need to be so that those around us can see that influence and we can truly be salt and light in their life. I have a book coming out in the last part of January 2021, and it's entitled Change Your World. And this book is all about what do you and I do on whatever level of influence we have to make a positive difference. And I would like to, in this teaching, talk about family and how you can make a difference right in your own home that has incredible legacy possibilities and incredible life change possibilities for the people that you love the most. So let me begin this teaching by giving you a definition of success that in the middle 1980s, long time ago, okay, that I came up with this definition of success because I was watching a lot of people that seemed to have outward success, but they were, going down in flames, and it just really wasn't working. And so I came up with this definition, which will kind of be core to the teaching, and it's a definition of what success is. And here's what I say. Success is those who know you the best, love and respect you the most. You see, to be honest with you, those who know me the best don't love and respect me the most, and somebody who hardly knows me at all, maybe they read my book somewhere, et cetera, and they think, oh my, he's amazing, but my family doesn't think I'm amazing. There's got to be a miss somewhere there, don't you think? And so when we're talking about change your world, I want to talk about how we do this as parents. And I want to talk to you about intentional parenting. Now, when we have children, we're parents. But that doesn't mean that we're great parents. And if we're going to be really great parents, it has to be more than just good intentions. It has to be good actions. And if it's going to be good actions, it has to be foundational of good intentions and having an intentional life. So I'm going to share with you today what I think intentional parenting is all about, okay? And let's just kind of see if this adds value to you. I hope so. The first thing I want to say about intentional parenting is this. If you want to be successful and really succeed in this area, I think you have to ask yourself a question, and that is, what are the essential wins that you want for your children? I think that has to be, intentional living assumes that there's some intentional thinking. And that intentional thinking has to even be before those intentional actions. And I think, Leslie, you call this the family five. And when you were sharing with me about the family five, it resonated. So what's interesting is, without that conversation, I'm going to share with you what I'm talking about many, many years ago now. Margaret and I, when we began to have children, what we basically said was what our family five were going to be. And again, this is totally separate from you, and yet it just fits into what you have thought of as a leader and as an educator. And these are our values. What are the five? Because as one of the things as a parent understands very quickly is you don't want to get in a battle with your children on every issue. I mean, how many disagreements do you want to have? How many long table conversations do you want to have? You're going to get worn out. You're going to wear your kids out. Quit making everything a life or death issue. Quit saying this is if you're going to have to fight for something, really figure out what's worth fighting for. And one of the things, I'm a grandparent now, we have 5 grandchildren, and one of the things that's different between parenting and grandparenting is, and the reason I think grandparents are so beloved by grandchildren is because by the time you're a grandparent, you realize that a whole bunch of stuff you did as a parent didn't really matter. And I'm not trying to diminish parenting. I'm just saying a whole bunch of stuff that I thought was important when my kids were young, I found out later on that they weren't that important. So what hill are you going to die on? What battle are you going to say, this is something that's worth fighting for? What is your family five? And again, we're talking about many, many years ago. I mean, we're talking about 40 plus years ago. Honestly, we just looked at things that we valued, 5 values that we wanted to have. And I'm going to give you mine, not because those are the 5 you should have, but sometimes I teach as for an example, okay? And so our family 5, now you have to understand I'm a person of faith, not trying to put that on you at all. But because of that, our family 5, the values that we held, that we said these are the ones we want our kids to really embrace and live out, was faith, attitude, responsibility, relationships, and generosity. We just felt that if our children would be people of faith, if they would have an attitude that would allow them to handle adversity in their life, that they would never be victims, but they would take responsibility for who they are and what they did, and that they would understand that the most fulfilling life is one that has good relationships in it, and that they would give back, that they're not to be a consumer in life, they're to be a giver of life. And so those were our family 5, Leslie, that we had, okay? And so I think the first thing you do as a parent is you just say, okay, what are the essentials? And start there. Now, once you determine what those 5 essentials are, what those wins are, then what you need to do is you need to maximize those wins. It's not something you just talk about, but there's a way to take those values and get a high return for your children and for your family. And I'm going to give these ways to maximize these wins right now. First of all is example, okay? Example isn't everything, but it almost is. People do what people see. Children do what children see. And so I think when you basically say, okay, this is one of my family 5, I think the first question you ask is not, is this what I want from my children? I think the first question you ask is this what I do? Because if I do this, if I live this, if I am this, then my teaching of those values is going to be so much easier because it's going to be backed up by a life that is lived in front of them. Remember, Stanford research says that 89% of everything we learn visually. 10% through the ears, 1% through the other senses. In other words, 89% of everything I learned, I saw it first. And where do you see it? You see it in the family. I mean, this is who you are with, not 24/7, but for a long time, periods of time. And so I think we just have to ask ourselves, if I'm going to get a win out of these family 5, these values that I have, am I an example? I mean, do they not only hear me talking about it, but do they see me living it? Remember, leadership is highly visual. What I mean by that is the fact that nobody ever followed an unseen, unknown leader. They see that leader. And that, maybe the most powerful leadership words a parent or a leader can give anybody are the words, follow me. Just follow me. Do as I do. Just hang with me. Watch me. My father this year passed away on July the 4th. Okay, he was 98 years old. Was an incredible dad, a terrific leader. And so on those last couple of days before he passed away, knowing his time was very short, one day I walked into his room where he was very peaceful. He couldn't respond to me at all, but he could hear me. I sat there for, maybe 2.5, 3 hours max. And I just began to share with him lessons that he had taught me. And I had my iPhone there, and I began to go through these lessons that my father had taught me. And I think what made him incredible was a very tender time it was just the two of us. It was a very tender time because I was beginning and was able to express back to him over all of his years, 98 plus years, he was almost 99, what he had taught me, what had been the seed that had been planted within me. And what was so powerful about this is that he not only said this to me, he showed this to me. And I think words are quickly forgotten, but not actions. And the way I look at it is words may come out first, but actions kind of underline those words. They highlight those words. They italicize those words. They call attention to those words. And so as I shared with him, there were 29 lessons. In fact, after that, if you go to, johnmaxwell.com, I did a tribute to my dad after he passed away, and I think there were 3 different teachings on the lessons that he taught me. Oh my gosh, it was, I think, listened to by over 3 million people. And, but anyway, these were lessons he taught me, but what was so precious was, as I was saying, Dad, this is what you taught me. then I would say, Dad, this is what you showed me. And I would sit in the chair right beside him, and this is what you taught me. But then when I said, Dad, this is what you showed me, I'd get up out of that chair and I'd go over and I would kiss him on the cheek. I'd hold his head and I'd kiss him on the cheek. You showed this. It's kind of like I took notes on what you taught me, but I have to kiss you. I have to hold your head because of what you showed me. You underlined those lessons with your life. So to maximize your family 5 example is that maximizes those values and that win. Secondly is exposure. You want to give your children exposure and allow them to have a world open up to them. My father, again, understood this. And in the 7th grade, I'm the middle child, older brother, younger sister. When we entered the 7th grade, we were paid an allowance from the 7th grade through high school for reading books. And my father picked out the books. And however much the book cost, that's what he would pay us to read it. Now, all of my friends, they didn't get paid to read books. My friends got paid to do chores. In fact, I went to my dad and said, Dad, my friends get paid to do chores. I think that's a good idea. What do you think? He said, that's a terrible idea. It's a terrible idea. He said, you do chores because you're part of a family. I don't pay you to be part of the family. In fact, he'd laugh. He said, if we're in the payment system and being part of the family, then let me just explain to you, by the time you were born, you already owed your mother for 9 months of room and board. So and then he'd say, shut up and take out the garbage, And then he'd say, why would I pay you to take out the garbage unless I want you to grow up and be a garbage man? I want to put my money where my values are, and my values are reading good books that have good teachings and principles. And he picked the books out for us. And we were required every day to read 30 minutes. And our dinner conversations were about the books we were reading and what were we learning. And it was life-changing. If you would talk to my brother, sister, myself, you would, and you said, what was the most important? What was the most important thing that happened to you in your childhood? All 3 of us would say the book reading program. And by the way, I've done that for my children. I've done that for my grandchildren, and it's just kind of life-changing. For my grandchildren, when they're reading something I've recommended to them, we have a little section with the grandchildren. We'll maybe try to get on what they call the Papa list. They call me Papa, and what they'll do is they'll take a quote out of one of the books that I've asked them to read, and they'll say, I think this is a good quote. What do you think? And if I say yes, it made the Papa list. Now, this is just very simple. It's very simple. There's nothing you're ever going to do better for your children than to do what my father did for me, what I try to do for my children, what I try to do for my grandchildren. That is, these books exposed us. I'm telling you, in the 7th grade, I read How to Win Friends and Influence People. I read that book every year through high school, took 2 Dale Carnegie courses by the time I graduated from high school, and I'm here to tell you, changed my life. The magic power of thinking big, think and grow rich. As a man thinketh. I can go through these incredible classics, and they just changed my life. I was on a plane, on a flight going from the States to Sao Paulo to speak at a conference, and I was reading a Success magazine on the plane. And in it, they had this incredible article on the 25 books that you should read to be successful. And I thought, this is interesting. So I started, and it would have the book, and then it maybe have 3 paragraphs describing the book, and then the next book. And there were 25 of them in this article. And as I'm reading them, I think, well, yeah, I've read that one. Yeah, I read that when I was in school. That was on my dad's reading program. And when I finished 19 of the 25 books to be successful, I had read by the time I graduated from high school. 19 of the 25. And by the way, the only reason I hadn't read the other 6, none of them on that list had been written yet. In fact, I'll have to tell you, there was a little pride popping on the plane one of the 25 was one of my books. And I thought, oh my goodness, yeah. So I suppose I've read that one too if I wrote it. But here's the point. The point is, exposure is essential to take those values and just expand and open up their world. And not only books, but my father was very committed to giving me exposure to people. Norman Vincent Peale was a long-distance mentor of my father's, and when I was in the 7th grade, I believe, I was junior high, he took me to Veterans Memorial Auditorium in Columbus, Ohio, to hear Norman Vincent Peale and get to meet him. And when I was a junior in high school, he took me and exposed me to just this great missionary statesman in India for so many years. And I've just had a senior moment. The name escapes me, but I'll get it back in a moment. I'm 73, so give me a little slack here. But just incredible, again, life-changing exposure to, bigger people. When you're exposed to them, just make you feel bigger. Better people make you feel better. By the way, smaller people, when you're exposed to them, make you feel smaller. And my father just understood, put me in the right place. Put the right book in my hand. It's life-changing. And so, example, exposure. Another one is experiences. If you want to maximize those values, make sure that you give them experiences that really express and teach those values. I did that constantly. And by the way, with our children, whenever we would have one of these experiences, which we had them weekly, I would always ask them 2 questions. Because, by the way, experience is not the best teacher. We hear that all the time. It's not true. It's not true at all. If experience were the best teacher, then everyone that got older would get better. Because as you get older, you have more experiences. I know a whole bunch of people, trust me, they're getting older, but they're not getting better. They are not getting better. Just trust me on that. You know too. Leslie, I see you over there laughing. You got it down, lady. You understand this, So it's not experience that's the best teacher at all. It's the evaluation of that experience. It's after you've had it, pulling back, and I would ask my children 2 questions out of every experience. What did you love, and what did you learn? And because they were children, I'd always ask them what they loved first, because, kids are kids. And, oh, Dad, this is what I really loved. Okay. Now let's talk. What did you learn out of that experience? I taught them how to be reflective. I taught them how to evaluate all those experiences. And for years, Margaret and I, for Christmas, have always given our children and grandchildren a trip every year. That's our, if you buy them stuff, they break it and lose it. But if you create memories, it stays with them for life. And so every year Christmas time, where are we going this year? Here's our trip this year that we're going to do as a family. Why? We're trying to give them experiences. I'm proud to introduce my friend Tim Elmore, who will be delivering today's word. I work side by side with Tim more than 2 decades, and I can promise you that he is someone you want to learn from. Tim went on to found Growing Leaders, and today we are excited to have him as a Maxwell Leadership Thought Leader. He has spoken to more than 500,000 leaders in business and schools around the world and has written 37 books. So he's ready to give you his wisdom today.
Thanks, John. The word I'd like to talk to you about today is the word perspective. We all know that every human being we interact with every day, at work or at home, brings a different perspective to the table, don't they? Did you know there are 5 different generations of people working together in a workplace today? Meaning because people are living and working longer and young professionals are still coming into the team. 5 generations are working together, each of which has a different perspective. So the builders are way past retirement age, but many of them are still working because they're healthy and they love work. The baby boomers, I'm one of them, are old enough to retire, but we are staying around and working. Then the Gen Xers, who are in midlife right now, are in the heartbeat of the workforce. The millennials, those young professionals, now make up the majority of the workforce. And now there's Generation Z, the new kids on the block who are graduating school and entering the workplace. Just know they all bring different preferences, they all bring different expectations, and most of all, they bring different perspectives to the team. This can be bad news for you or good news based on how you respond to them. So I have an acronym for you. This is a leg we have to stand on. Okay, it's an acronym, ALEG. The letter A reminds me, as I approach somebody from a different generation, I need to ask questions first. I don't need to download information. I need to ask them questions. The letter L, I need to listen well. I'm going to learn something if I listen after I've asked that question. And when I listen, they feel heard. The letter E, I need to empathize. You see, when I empathize, they feel understood, not just heard. And then the letter G, guide. If I do those first 3 steps, I've earned the right to guide them in this conversation and lead them well. So remember, perspectives are a given. You're going to get a bunch of different kinds of perspectives. Whether you leverage them to the advantage of the organization is up to you, but just know they're coming. It's all about perspective.
But the Apostle Paul said something that really was the catalyst for me giving the title of my first book I ever wrote, Think on These Things. Here's what he said. Summing it all up, friends, I'll say that you'll be best if you fill your minds and meditate on things that are true, noble, reputable, authentic, compelling, gracious. In other words, he said, you're really going to be at your best if you meditate on good stuff. And then he begins to contrast good stuff with bad stuff. He said, the best, think on those things, not the worst. The beautiful, not the ugly. Things to praise, not things to curse. Now, the Apostle Paul says we have a choice. And in a crisis, I could either think about all the things to curse, and there's a whole bunch of cursing going on and a lot of things to curse, or I can look at that and I can say, no, there's some praise in here. There's something I can be thankful for. Now, Paul, why is he asking us to focus on these things? Why is he doing this? Because he knows that a positive perspective in every situation upgrades that situation. Paul is not saying deny reality. In that verse, what did he say? He said there's some wrong things, bad things, things that you could curse. He's not denying that they're there. They're right in front of you. He's not acting as if they're not possible. They are possible. They're reality. But he's saying what we get to choose is what we think on. Wow. I love that. So, I'm going to give you a challenge. In fact, this morning, remember I said I've been thinking quite a bit from yesterday? This morning, I put this in my notes. I'm going to challenge you. This is one of the most important parts of my teaching today. I'm going to challenge you to be one of the few that take a bad experience and turn it into a better experience. Now, how are we going to do that? So write down that challenge. Okay, John challenges me to take a bad experience and turn it into a better experience. Okay, you got that? Now I'm going to get real practical with you here for the next 3 minutes. How do I do that? How do you do that? How do we take something bad and make it better? We have to be intentional. What I'm going to give you can't be accidental. It has to be intentional. I have to be intentional in 6 things right now. I have to be intentional, first of all, in my personal time. I have a more personal time than I've ever had before because I've had a whole bunch of stuff canceled in my life. So what am I going to do in the time that I have? And I hope the answer is not watch TV. I don't mean this unkindly. TV's fine. But I hope we're going to upgrade ourselves just a little bit. For example, for me, on my desk, if you went into my home right now, on my desk on the left side, right here on my desk are 6 books. 6 books that I have purposely, intentionally picked out and said, okay, in this downtime, I'm going to read these books. Now, I haven't been able to get to them until now, but I can, and so I'm going to read those books. I'm also going to make it a time of exercise. I'm going to make it a time of trying to get a little bit better and healthy and eat a little bit better in that whole process. Okay, well, that's personal. But what the question is what are you going to do with your personal time? You've got to be intentional. I challenge you to be intentional in your personal time to do something that'll make you better. Number 2, your family time. What are you going to do in your family time? I mean, you're having more family time than ever before. Margaret and I have kind of developed a list of movies that we kind of want to see at home, perhaps together, and we're going to take more walks than we've
taken before. In other words, what are you going to do with your family that's just going to be positive? Maybe with your family you would want to sit down and share what I'm teaching. Wow, wouldn't that be good? Sit and gather them around and say, look, this is how we need to be thinking. Here's how we need to be acting during a crisis time. Okay, how about catch-up time? How about your catch-up time? That's the third area. And I'm not talking about ketchup that you put on with fries. I'm talking about CATH. I can catch up on some things that I would have never gotten to. And things like, mundane things like commitment I've made is to clean my closet out. That closet's need to be cleaned out for 3 years. Every time I go into it, it just looks at me and says, clean me out, clean me out. And I've ignored it. But I got a little time. I'm going to do that. But I'm going to have some time now to really give to a new book that I'm writing that I'm very excited that's going to come out soon. And so now I can really focus on that book. Okay, how about, here's a good one for you. Number 4, be intentional in your adding value time. Okay. In a crisis, people need encouragement and added value more than any other time. So why don't you every day write down one name of a person that you need to encourage, a call that you need to make, just a touch that say, I'm going to add value to these people today. Get intentional. You'll be surprised not only how it'll help the people, but how it'll help you. Number 5, I'm a person of faith. You don't have to listen to this, but I have what I call my faith time. What am I going to do as a person of faith? Well, one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to develop my trust muscle. I'm going to really work on that. And a trust muscle basically means I'm going to have to trust God to give me strength and peace when I don't have all the answers. And by the way, if you're not a person of faith, you go ahead and do that. You'll find out how He'll help you too. He's no respecter of persons. He loves you every bit as much as He loves me. But I'm going to work on my trust muscles. I'm going to work on my gratitude now, because gratitude is most hard to express during difficult times. And I'm going to work on my prayer life. In fact, I spent time in prayer for you today. Okay, just asking God to give you strength during this time. And then, okay, the 6th thing I want you to work on is your thinking time. Your thinking time. And I want you to put yourself through a positive grid. This morning, I wrote 3 questions I want you to consider every day as you think. Question number 1, how will this crisis make me better? It's a great question. Give yourself 10 minutes, 15 minutes every day and say, okay, I'm going to write these questions down. I'm going to think upon this. How will this crisis make me better? There are answers. If you think about it, you'll find them. Number 2, how will I use this crisis to help other people? Wow, that's huge. And by the way, you're going to get an abundance of answers in that, because everybody needs help in a crisis. And number 3, what action will I take? Oh my, this is great. What action will I take that will improve my situation? What action am I going to take that'll what can I do that'll just make me better?
Welcome to the Maxwell Leadership Executive Podcast, where our goal is to help you increase your reputation as a leader, increase your ability to influence others, and increase your ability to fully engage your team to deliver remarkable results.